Still no Matt, but we are right at 5:30. So Rita, maybe as vice chair, what do you think about getting this started with introductions? And then as Matt comes, we can start in on the questions.
I could do that, but I'll have to download the script if you want me to do anything beyond that. So anyway, let me see if I can pull that up right now.
Should we introduce ourselves? Is that the?
Yeah. So this is, I think I have to call to order the hearing. So I officially call to order the hearing of the Burlington Water District Local Water District, and this hearing is regarding the local option levy. And there's Matt. Matt, take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I will virtually gavel in this meeting. Knock, knock. I call to order this public hearing on May 7th, 2026 for the Burlington Water District Local Option Levy Tax Measure. I am Matt Donahue, Chair of the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission, and I welcome you to this hearing. The TSCC is an oversight commission established by the Oregon legislature. The commission oversees the budgets of all TSCC member taxing districts and annually conducts a thorough budget review and certification process. Another of TSCC's responsibilities, as detailed in state law, is to hold public hearings on all property tax measures proposed by municipal corporations under the commission's jurisdictions. TSCC holds public hearings to give the public an opportunity to learn more about the proposed measure. We ask questions that we think a typical community member might ask. In that sense, we are here today to represent those community members who may not be able to ask questions of you directly. We encourage community members to attend these public hearings and make comments and ask questions. Minutes of this public hearing will be prepared and retained as a permanent record of the proceedings. TSCC does not take any action on the proposed tax measure and does not advocate for a position on the measure. The hearing is strictly to promote information sharing. I will now ask my fellow commissioners and the TSCC staff to introduce themselves. And I'll start with you, Rita, and then when you're done, why don't you pick the next person?
Hi, my name is Rita Moore. This is my second year on TSCC. I'm a former policy analyst, former member of the Portland Public School Board, and I have no conflicts. How about Eric?
Good evening, board members. Pleased to be here with you this evening. I'm Eric Kavarston. It's my rookie year on TSCC. Enjoying it thus far. I was a city manager in Oregon for 5 different communities over 35 years. The last stop was in Gresham. Again, pleased to be with you this evening, and I'll hand off to Will.
Hi, I'm the other rookie here. My name is Will Terry. I have no conflict. I don't live in the district. I reckon it's about 5 miles south. I am a former academic. I was a UO professor, and now I am finishing a book. And I will pick on. Does the staff introduce themselves? I guess we're.
Yes. Yeah.
Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany Abiari, and I'm the budget analyst with TSCC, and this is my second budget year. And Allegra.
I'm Allegra Wilhite. I am the executive director with TSCC, so nice to see you all. And since we're a small group here, Matt, do you want me to pass it on to the Burlington board members as well to introduce themselves briefly?
Yes, that would be perfect.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and pick on Gail since we were on here early together. So Gail, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you can go next.
Hello, my name is Gail Curtis. I have started my 5th year serving on this board. I'm a former land use and transportation planner working for both the state and local governments. And I'll turn it over to Ricardo, our chair.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Lovett, and I'm a volunteer on the board, and this is my 2nd year on the board. Tammy?
Hi, I'm Tammy Agee. I'm an I'm a retired small business owner. I am a rookie on the water board, and I'm also the chair of the budget committee. Where did Dan go?
I think Dan.
Dan?
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Zimmerman. I know some of you. Hey Matt.
Hey.
And I've been the bookkeeper for Burlington Water District for 7 or 8 years now.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And just to flesh out my introduction, I'm 5th year on the TSCC, serving as chair now. My day job is as a public finance banker and a financial advisor. So Allegra, do we have any members signed up to testify? Any members of the public?
No, we did not receive any advanced testimony or written testimony. I don't see anyone else on this call. So unless Burlington Water folks, if you have heard of somebody who's trying to call in, let us know. Otherwise, I would say it doesn't look like we have any public comment today.
Okay, great. Well, then we should get on to the questions. And the first one is mine. So please tell us more about the services that are provided to the district by the city of Portland. In an average service year, roughly how many of your calls are medical/EMT versus fire calls? And do you have any other types of calls that the city responds to?
So in an over a 3-year average, we typically have 7 fire-related trips and 35 medical trips during that period. And I don't know of any other types of emergency calls that we've ever had from the city. That's the only ones I've heard of. I don't know if Gail or Daniel have heard of any others.
We receive an annual record from the city of Portland in terms of the number of calls and the nature of the calls. And that's the extent of it. It's a very brief report. It's in a graphic form, and we do not gain detail about the nature. It's just whether it's a medical or fire report. And as you can tell, the 3-year average are quite modest. Of course, we're a small district made up of about 400 residents.
Sure. And how does the community feel about the quality of the service of the city to the district? Do you get any complaints?
Well, I personally used ambulance service, and it was very effective and good. Other than that, I have heard no complaints from anyone.
I've been told that we're too far out, that we have a 25-minute response where we're living. And so that causes problems. We actually had a death in our house a while back, 2 years ago, and it took them about 45 minutes to get here.
We also have expressed to one another on the board our concern about the St. John's Bridge, because the primary service for fire is coming from downtown St. John's. We have met with Scappoose in the past, and their service times are very likely shorter because they don't have the obstacle of a bridge. And we've tried to, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I'm talking about service. So maybe I am jumping too far ahead. But we have pursued alternative service is the upshot, and I can elaborate more about that if you like.
Rita, you had a question?
Yeah. Do you all have access to the Multnomah County ambulance services?
Not that I know of.
Huh. Could you?
I think we're too far out. I mean, we're on the very pretty much outlying edge of the Multnomah County west side. And most of the services are, what am I understanding from the police and from the fire, is most of our services either come from police in Troutdale or fire in St. John.
Huh.
Now, we may receive services through Multnomah County if that is coordinated through the city of Portland. Our agreement is with the city of Portland. Now, if they have a sub-agreement with Multnomah County, that could be the case. I don't know.
Okay, Will, I think you have the next question.
Yeah, thank you. That was interesting. I think we'll be interested in coming back to Scappoose in the event that the St. John's proves to be a problem. My question is about just public outreach. So what communication efforts have you made with the district voters about the proposed local option levy? And to the extent that you have, what kind of feedback have you gotten?
Well, we've mailed out 2 flyers, one just last week and one earlier, I guess, actually in April. And we have, to my knowledge, we've had no feedback whatsoever.
You said the district had 400 people.
Residents. Mm-hmm.
Residents.
Well, there's a few businesses too. Yeah.
So 400 residents and fewer accounts than that, presumably. Oh no, excuse me. This is emergency services. I think you're up, Rita.
Yep.
What other options have you explored for paying for fire services before deciding on the local option levy? And I'm going to leap ahead to the follow-up since it's already been mentioned. Have you explored working with other jurisdictions that might provide fire services at a cheaper rate?
Well, I can answer that if you like, Ricardo.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have met with the city of Scappoose because they are the most obvious and closest proximity, and had a very positive meeting, learned about the nature of the service and the nature of coordination with other fire, service providers. They have what they call mutual aid agreements. So if the Scappoose can get to a fire sooner than the city of Portland, they will do that. However, we learned at that time, and this meeting was about 3 years ago, we learned that they don't have a formal mutual aid agreement. So we have followed up about that, saying, hey, how about a formal agreement? The chief at Scappoose said this is something they're working towards. I don't know that it's been achieved. I kind of suspect it hasn't been. I don't think it prevents service from occurring, that they don't have this formal agreement. They also have some challenges in terms of their radio frequencies not matching up. And essentially, as far as providing service to the Burlington Water District, they said they're at full capacity. They've got the staff is fully occupied. They've got their equipment, and they're at capacity. So they were unable to service. They do have a fire station on what's called the Holbrook Station, which is physically in the Burlington Water District, but it isn't manned. It's more for storage and I don't know what else, maybe the future, but it's not used. Well, it's not manned. Let me put it that way. I think it is used for storage.
It's all volunteer. Excuse me for interrupting.
Out of Holbrook.
Mm-hmm.
Gail, should we conclude then that Portland is your only option? Is that what you're saying ultimately?
Right, and we did touch basis with Sauvie Island too, I'll mention, and that is a volunteer operation. They have one paid employee, the chief, so they don't really have the wherewithal, is kind of what that conclusion is.
So did I understand you correctly in saying that the last time you talked to Scappoose was 3 years ago?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I attended a City of Portland budget hearing a couple days ago, and there was a lot of discussion about the St. John's Fire Station, their proposed cuts. And several firefighters testified, and they talked about the mutual aid network that they have. And Scappoose was specifically mentioned as a member of that. So they may have formalized a relationship with the city in the interim.
That's great. Yeah, that's good. And I'll tell you, the relationships seem very positive. They, to the extent that Portland has supplied Scappoose with significant equipment to the tune of 1, possibly 2 of their fire trucks.
Wow.
1 for sure. Yeah. So they have a very good relationship.
Okay.
Could you remind us of the status of the current contract with Portland?
We review it and sign an agreement annually, because what we're signing is understanding of the incremental increase, which has been significant. Dan, maybe you can help remind me, 10% jumps, 12% jumps. And however, the overall master agreement expires June 30th of 2030.
And is that contract based on what, assessed value, or what's the formula?
Oh, that's probably a fair question, but it does have to do, I'd have to get back to you on that if you really want to know the specifics, but it is some assessed value, but the large drivers are the PERS retirement fund for the firefighters and healthcare costs.
Thank you.
Can I ask, have you been talking to the city about the proposed cuts to the St. John's Fire Station? What kind of impact that might have on service to Burlington?
No. We have had very little communication with the city of Portland, not because we don't. Anyway, we were in a bit of a pickle with them because they were late on providing us their annual agreement, and this kind of dragged on. And then, when we had the sticker shock, we met with them and said, hey, we don't have the funds for this, and tried to negotiate a lower rate to find out that there is a specific formula. When we had that initial meeting, the staff wasn't aware of how binding the agreement is, and subsequently informed us of that. So that's back to, we need to change the ordinance. But no, and then at that time, because there had not been communication with Burlington, we said, we all agreed that we should meet annually. So Ricardo and I have been talking about that. It's time to meet. I guess we could meet and they could tell us about their budget cuts.
Would you like me to give a sneak preview based on what I heard at the budget?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So in the mayor's proposal, they're planning to take away the engine from Station 22, which is St. John's. And the engine is the truck with the water capacity. The firefighters this was a very big discussion at this budget hearing. I would say probably 80% of the testimony was on this. The firefighters claimed that this would have significant impacts on their ability to service other jurisdictions, part of their mutual aid. So it would be a significant decrease in the firefighting capacity in St. John's, or coming out of St. John's.
Well, I think you just lit a fire under our seats. You know, thank you for that report. You know, we're made up of volunteers, right? Citizens. But there is a big other looming picture here, for which I'm sure you heard about it with all the testimony at that hearing or meeting, and that's Forest Park. How do we protect Forest Park?
And the CEI hub.
Right. The critical infrastructure, if folks don't know what we're referring to, all the 600 tanks.
Yeah. And Rita, you live in St. John's, right? That's, I assume, why you were at that meeting.
I was there because, yes, I have a certain interest in this.
Right, right.
Oh, may I interrupt our meeting for a second to introduce another one of our commissioners, Ann Squire has joined us. And it was she and I that went out and met with Scappoose and then did some follow-ups about the mutual aid agreement to encourage that to be put in place. And I'm happy that it is formally in place. Is that sounding like that from Commissioner Moore?
It sounds like you're in a tough position. I mean, you're essentially stuck with Portland, and they're charging you 12% increases a year, and then and now they're axing St. John's. You know, that doesn't seem like a great deal.
I should note that's not a done deal.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Proposal. So
Thank you.
I think there might be significant city council discussions on this question.
I have the next question, actually. What is your contingency plan or what contingency plans have you discussed if the levy doesn't pass? And how would you fund the gap between the fire costs and the revenue coming in, the cost of the fire service?
I don't think we've actually discussed that very much. I mean, it's come up, but we haven't really looked into what possibilities there are and how we could possibly do that.
Well, if I may, Gail Curtis here. We have had some discussion, and that it has been what other funds do we have?
Yeah.
We don't, because of this is specific, these property taxes are specific for this service. We do have revenue in our coffers from water, from the ratepayers, but we are not interested in mingling those two, nor, it just wouldn't be appropriate. We've kind of pushed the question, well, is there a specific law that tells us we cannot do this? But we know enough that, that probably wouldn't be a good use. I don't know. I mean, if any of you have any ideas about that, mixing funds, I mean, water is water. We're using water to fight fire. So there might be some logic there to help make up the gap. The second thing I would say is I think we'd have to go back out to the voters and ask again. We have two options. City, charge us less, or two, voters pay more. Or we've talked about getting service from an alternative location, and that just doesn't, unfortunately, really isn't in the cards. Unless we want to really try and get Scappoose and for Columbia County / Scappoose to take over a portion of the service area. there, you know, there's some logic to that when you look at the geography. But I would ask you, this taxing commission, what do you think the likelihood of changing boundaries between Multnomah County and Columbia County? Is that something that you have experience with?
No, I mean, no. Probably would be a heavy lift, but I'm not
If I, if
sure.
I may,
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
No, go ahead.
If I may though, Gail, I thought you said that the Scappoose is at capacity, right? I mean, it's going to be hard to figure out the incremental staff, FTEs or engines that they would have to acquire to service your service district, right? I mean, Scappoose, in other words, doesn't sound like a great option, right? They're not really.
No, you're right. I guess what I should qualify what I meant by that. I'm thinking long range. You know, our agreement, I mean, 2030 is just around the corner, 4 years, but you know, maybe we're talking 2040. But because we are a volunteer group, it's hard to have the wherewithal to continue these big political boundary change discussions. So I'm not, you know, we've been talking to the city of Portland. We don't talk to Multnomah County. You guys are Multnomah County. You know, if there's some help for us, we're interested.
You know, at the end of the day, I mean, it probably just comes down to, you know, the dollar and cents of it, you know, and if the service provider would see you as a net positive, bringing in a contract, and maybe they'd be more competitive than what city is charging you and increasingly charging you.
Well, it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because the amount of trips that they make into the district are modest.
That's what it
Yeah.
sounded like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my experience, you know, most fire contracts like that are based on a number of factors, assessed value, but also call service is almost always in that mix. So I think gaining a better understanding from the city of Portland, kind of what that base allocation is for you folks would be helpful. I understand they have increased cost and they allocate those out, but kind of fundamentally, what are they basing that overarching charge on? What are the factors, and have them take you through those. And again, I think there's a number of different ways to come up with that cost, but they usually include a multitude of different factors, and call is almost always one of those. And like you mentioned, you have a fairly modest call load for my perception, the amount of the contract.
You know, I could dig up the contract language. I don't believe it is based on calls, number of calls.
Yeah, that's my memory too. You had shared it at one point, and my memory of it is that it's just a cost per capita for what it costs them to give service to Portland per person, and then they apply that to the number of people we have in Burlington. That was my memory of it.
Tammy, you raising your hand?
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm new at this, so I'm learning as I go. But as far as crossing counties, what is the discrepancy with that that makes it so difficult to deal with Scappoose? Because I know I moved to Multnomah County from Scappoose, and I know while I was in Scappoose had they won an award for the fastest response rate for a volunteer fire department than the rest of the United States. And so my question is, what is the problem? What problems are created by crossing counties? And then also that they do have a fire station on Morgan Road, which is like 2 miles from my house, but even from Linton, it's only 9 miles, versus them trying to get across the St. John's Bridge during high traffic times, which turned out to be the problem that we had when we had the death in our house. And so that's where my question comes, is like, when they can come from Scappoose with a faster response rate, and making it possible that houses don't necessarily burn down, or an emergency doesn't go unassisted, that if somebody can just explain to me what the whole county discrepancy thing is.
I don't know that there are, and I'm not an expert on this area, but I don't know that you wouldn't be allowed to sign up a new contract with Scappoose when the Portland one is done. I think if you went into Columbia County, it might open you up to more kind of county-wide services, as well as as just being part of the county rather than just a single contracting with another city.
Yeah, I think Matt. Yeah, I think Matt's right. There's not that I'm aware of any statutorial limit to fire service across county jurisdiction lines. You could, for example, the Metro area Clackamas Fire District responds to fires outside that county boundary, mutual aid agreements, those kinds of things. So I don't think that is the issue. But like Matt said, a wholesale change to a county would be a pretty big lift.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure.
And
And at the end of the day, it's a taxing issue, because it would be collection of taxes in Columbia County.
they would be gaining your property value, and Multnomah would be losing.
That makes more sense.
That you care about. Each one cares about that. So it's a different question. You guys are a small area.
Can I make one suggestion? And I should be clear. I have my report of the city budget hearing is the sum total of my knowledge of how any fire system works. So take my next statement for whatever it's worth. Is it possible that you might be able to establish a mutual aid agreement with Scappoose?
I was going to chime in here, Gail, to remind us that you and I met with the Scappoose fire folks, and they were not open to finding a way to sweep us into their service. So.
Am I correct that you said that the city of Portland and Scappoose do already have a mutual aid agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And what we learned is that we wouldn't be the body that they would have a mutual aid agreement with, because we provide no services. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they said the purview is different. It's outside of us. We were excited. We're like, oh yeah, let's have a mutual aid agreement. And it's like, no, not with you.
Well, Anne, do you have more comments, or I can move on to the next question? Okay. So this is about the board, and as you've mentioned, you are volunteer board, and with regular turnover as terms come to an end. You're drawing from a small pool of residents to serve on the board. And so can you talk about how you plan for board continuity and the cyclical nature of the leadership positions on the board?
Well, I've been on the board for about 1.5 years, and in that time, we've been trying to recruit people pretty continually through just word of mouth, and we've sent out a couple flyers, and we get absolutely no feedback or response. So I'm not sure where we head from here, actually.
We have an operator by the name of Northwest Natural Water Services, which is a subsidiary of Northwest Natural Gas. There are quote unquote operator. They go out in the field, they collect the money from the ratepayers, and it was formerly a family-owned company called Highland. Northwest Natural Water Services is in the business of buying up small or whatever size water services and privatizing them. Our last correspondence to our, the residents, the constituents, the members of the water district, and we said to them flat out, this, we're looking at potential privatization of this service, which, if we think our water rates are independently going to be high enough with the city of Portland's new filtration plant, et cetera, a healthcare cost, it will be even greater I suspect, if it's owned by Northwest Natural Water Services. Our source of this information is our attorney, who works on a large scale, and she is the one that shared with us their business plan is to go in where the infrastructure is lacking, make the investment, and provide those services. So that's a hard one to swallow.
But just to be clear, that's for water service, right? But not emergency services, not fire and ambulance?
True. And quite frankly, we focus on water. Our board the fire emergency services is something provided by the city of Portland, and we rely on them, and it's seldom part of our policy discussion.
Yeah.
We actually are pretty much just a pass through. The county collects the taxes, they give the taxes to us, and we write a check to the fire department.
To Portland.
And that's about as much as we do. So maybe we should be more active. I don't know.
There is the potential for us to be more active when we think about the CEI and Forest Park.
Mm-hmm.
I really think we've asked the question, are we the right people to be having this conversation or not having it? Because we're not. And we had this idea of, how about there's a board that just focuses on fire and emergency services, and then they could be part of this broader conversation. But guess what? Nobody wants to fill. I mean, I sought out some people in the community, in the district, who are very active on the topic of the CEI and care passionately about the fire protection and work hard with the city of Portland to provide education. Would they like to serve on the board to provide this role? No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I know it's tough, but so kudos for you guys showing up, doing the volunteering.
As well as you. Thank you for your service.
We're all in the same boat here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's important.
It is, yeah. Well, we've danced around this a little bit, but I'll read the question, and then we can answer it in a way that's appropriate. So you're levying a rate that's sufficient to cover the projected cost increase, as well as to build a buffer in the event that not renewed. The question is, like, sufficient reserve do you need? How will you determine what amount is a sufficient fund balance that you would allow the levy to be less than the approved amount? So the wording there is not great, but what is your target balance? The level at which you think you would have to raise the levy if you got down to? I'm not sure.
Dan, do you want to field this question? Because I think you've given a fair amount of thought to it. Ricardo, is that a good call?
Yes. Sorry.
Sure. I'll try. So I know that Allegra has helped us kind of determine what the rate should be. As far as the reserves and not renewing after the 5 years, I'm not sure of what the target balance would be, but essentially the Portland has indicated that the rate increases aren't going anywhere. I went back 20 years into our rates, and the previous, or maybe a little over 20 years, maybe the last 6 years were around 10%. The prior 15 years before that averaged around 3.7%. So knowing that our property taxes, on average can go up around 3%, and having a rate that is targeting a 10% increase per year quickly became unsustainable.
Yeah.
The district did have, when I went back that far, had a surplus, and they are operating under the surplus. But the contract has ran at a deficit to the taxes collected for the past 4 years, which has quickly eroded the surplus. And so without the levy passing this next year, and being in effect, the district wouldn't be able to pay the contract in the next year. So I think that the sheet that Allegra ran for us with the $1.70, it did build a pretty good size surplus, and it was indicated to the board that it wasn't necessary to levy the entire amount, for all of the years, if they did kind of notice that the trend was that you were building this massive surplus. But as you indicated in your question, if the levy was passed and then wasn't renewed in 5 years, when you project out what the contract could be in 5 years with those 10% increases, you would have to think that you would want to build at least a multi-year surplus, probably, to give you enough time to have the levy not pass and be able to either go back to voters or come up with an alternate plan. One of those things that wasn't discussed on the previous question about like what potential things could be, and I don't know when Eric worked for the city of Gresham, but city of Gresham was thrown out as just an idea of that they had instituted some kind of fee as opposed to a tax to build up money that could pay for this service. The only real question that I have is I feel like there's some discrepancy in the boundaries of the taxing district versus the water district. And so I feel like it creates an inequitability about who's paying for this and who's getting the services and benefit of the contract.
Just a point of clarification, Dan. So you're saying so the water district has a certain boundary. My understanding would be that you would, I mean, if you're allowed to do one of these fees, like Portland's doing for transportation or something like that, if you were going to have a fee for water, you could confine the taxing district to the water district, right? You could make them the same, is what I imagine, right?
I was thinking the other way around, that perhaps some of the taxing district doesn't reside in the water district potentially.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't receive a bill to add the fee to.
Yeah. I was just conjecturing that you could probably make them the same, right? You could line up the taxing district with the people who are actually getting the service in the service district itself. I guess that's a question for a lawyer, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have given some thought to that topic, and it's a conundrum as well. I don't want to take away too much time, but we have confirmed that there are people paying into the fire district that are not in the water district. And in order to come into the water district, you have to bring your infrastructure up to standard, and that is prohibitive. We have one family that would like to come into the district, and the line costs $100,000 to make that, to be brought up to standard, and the cost would be split over 3 properties. So another challenge.
Yeah.
We like the idea of serving these antiquated, replacing pipes in the out of district area, but it's a catch-22. We don't, because of the low density population is a factor to spread the costs. We do get funds from the state to build and replace infrastructure within the district, but then to go out of the district, it's just another challenge because we can't spread the costs, basically.
Allegra, don't we have what's the other district that has a levy and they basically levy to keep a whole extra year on hand in case the levy isn't?
Riverdale Fire District has a very large balance. It's actually so large that it's beyond just the local option levy loss. It's the entirety of all property tax that they have as a buffer. So in the $1.70 that we did, that buffer would not be that large, but just like Dan said, it would hopefully buy them time to be able to go out for multiple elections or find another solution.
Yeah. All right, Eric, do you want to ask the final question here?
Yeah, the last question we ask of all the levies is anything you'd like the community and the public to know about the work that gets done because of this levy.
Certainly that they're being provided with emergency services, both ambulance and fire, which is the most important. Mm-hmm. And maybe this begs the question that we need to do more outreach somehow. I don't know if we need to have a public meeting or what, so that people are aware that this could become a crisis and needs more of their attention. Or maybe they'll lose this service, and maybe the water service will become privatized, which could potentially increase their costs. So I'm not sure how we attack that, but
I'll just throw out there, because we do have another Alto Park Water District that is quite small, and they do an annual potluck picnic for their community. So they just invite everybody to come and bring snacks, and then they give updates on what's happening with the district. So I don't know if that would work in your community, but I'll just throw that out there.
Well, it's a good suggestion. I think that's something we need to look at as a board. So, anybody else have any input on this? Tammy or Gail? I think Ann's left because she had system failure, so.
Well, I just want to express my appreciation for the brain power that your commission has in your experience with taxation and fees. And Allegra has been a great asset to us. She, is so patient with us and brings examples to us. So a big thanks to her. But going forward, I just don't see a clear path. Based on what we've shared with you tonight, do any of your commissioners see a path that seems more attractive than another? I think the fact that we are being charged not based on calls and service is something worth pursuing, if that is more of a standard, because we're paying for retirement funds, not service, is in a nutshell, to be a little bit to the point.
You're renegotiating the master contract in 2030?
Yes.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry, Will, apologize.
No, please, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, I think, Gail, that it's more typical in these contracts to incorporate a number of factors. As I mentioned, assess value is usually there because that's what you're protecting, calls for service and population. Again, there's other models around the state I think you could look at that for these jurisdictional contracts. It might be of help to you that, again, kind of broadens that and will help you in your discussions with Portland really identify what would be an equitable amount to be charged.
So we are a member of SDAO.
Yeah.
So they might be a resource for us in terms of model ordinances. I think we need to roll up our sleeves. I think
Absolutely.
this might be the path that we come in saying, hey, and I, in the past, I've said, fine, we'll go to city council and to I don't know to what avail, but if the ordinance, if staff is stuck with the ordinance that they have, let's talk about changing the ordinance.
Yeah, I certainly think SGO would be a fine resource for you, Gail. That's a good thought for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly. I think you know the best that you could do to you know outreach and have maybe competing options will provide you with you know leverage in the negotiations. And yeah, you know sometimes the community needs to know what the dire consequences are. And I know it's not so much fun going out there telling them about it, but that reality often kind of shakes people up and out of their sort of complacence about it. But well, thank you, and thank you for this good discussion, and appreciate you sharing all the information with us. And I wish you the best of luck on your levy.
Yeah, best of luck for sure.
Oh, thank you.
And I think it will be helpful for us to post these minutes as documentation that we, you know, we do think about this stuff and care about it. And there is a public interest here. So that'll be good, even though we haven't had any participation tonight, and seldom do we.
Gail, if you're able to get that recording for us, it might not show up until tomorrow. We can post the link right on our website. So then when people search, they can find it. You're welcome to, of course, post it on your website as well. But we do want to make it available for the public.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes because it's experimental, but at a minimum, I took some notes as well that I can share with Brittany.
Thank you for your service.
All right. Thank you for your help.
And hope you all have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nice meeting with you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. See you, Dan.